Hey guys, welcome to another Texas Bolt Action Battle Report. As you can see, we are here today for part 2 of the Allied attempt to take Gila from the German hands. After yesterday's battle, where pretty much the entire Ranger company was lost, along with a couple of veteran infantry squads, the big brass decided that in order to take this town, they were going to need to punch up their ranks. So they have dispatched Able and Baker Company to try and get this done. I'm going to be playing with my friends Mark, Kevin, and Greg, and we're going to be doing a little bit of 2v2 action. I'm super excited. Okay, so first let's look at Able Company. Pretty straightforward. Able Company has been given a regular first lieutenant as well as a regular medic, 4 regular infantry squads that have the option of being transported by half-track, or one of them does. We have a regular medium machine gun, a regular M4 Sherman tank, and we have also been given some artillery support with a medium M2A1 howitzer with a spotter. So hopefully they will be able to provide a little bit of support to the infantry as they cross that barren open field where so many Rangers fell yesterday. Coming over here to Baker Company, pretty straightforward as well. We have a regular first lieutenant, regular medium machine gun, 4 regular infantry squads, half-track, Sherman tank, medium mortar, lighter artillery, but at least some artillery, and a sniper. So both Able and Baker companies have 10 dice apiece, and today we're going to be trying a method where we draw 1 die out of the bag and let 2 people go with the 1 die, and then we'll take a die out of the bag whenever 2 units have been lost. So let's go over here and take a look at the Germans. The Fallschirmjäger are still badly depleted. They're down to their 3 squads, but they picked up the machine guns from the other squads that fell in the last game, and so each of these squads is bristling with 2 light machine guns apiece. They still have their officer. He has a new assistant. We still have our sniper. The machine gun team survived the last battle as well as this half-track, and we've also been requisitioned a PaK-38 to try and hold back the expected U.S. armor. Luckily, the FJ has been reinforced by a platoon of Panzer Grenadiers. We have our regular first lieutenant, as well as 1, 2, 3, 4 regular squads, 7-man. Some of them have LMGs, some of them don't. They will be transported in a SDKFZ. Got a new one that got brought up, as well as a Panther that has finally made its way by rail over to this area. We also have a medium mortar that's been transitioned from the Fallschirmjäger battalion over to the Panzer Grenadiers. So same objectives as before. We have the position here, we have the crossroads, the town square, and this line of buildings that must be taken at all costs. So yeah, very excited. The guys are going to be getting here soon, and we're going to go ahead and give it a go. So we're going to go ahead and do deployment next, just like we did yesterday. We might set up all of our men, or we might just say up to half and then hold the rest in reserve. Not sure yet, but I will let you know. So stay tuned. All right, guys, we are back after deployment. The Americans have decided to hold quite a few of their units in reserve, so there's not going to be as many Americans set up on the table as last time to begin the attack, but they are going to lead with this Sherman tank that is actually steering straight down the path into the town. I want to make an apology right quick. Earlier, and I know I titled the first video Gila. This is not supposed to be Gila. This is supposed to be Cisterna. My bad. I'm a bad history reader, recaller. That's my fault. But that Cisterna was the area around Anzio where the Rangers suffered heavy losses. So this is supposed to be part 2 to Cisterna. So I will definitely rename the last video And from here on out, this will be Cisterna Part 1 and 2. But anyway, so we have the Sherman tank here looking into Cisterna. We have in the woods a small contingent of men. We've got the medium machine gun team and a squad getting ready to advance once again where the Rangers fell yesterday across that open plain. This time we have a medium howitzer in position overlooking the town, as well as another unit in front of it that is planning to also advance. Meanwhile, over here with Baker Company, we have the Sherman and the half-track loaded down with a squad and an officer that are getting ready to begin on the right flank. The mortar is in position here to provide support. There is a squad of infantry also in position over here to the right. And then everyone else is either in reserve or in outflank. So we actually are going to have some outflanking going on today. Meanwhile, over here, the Wehrmacht, the Panzer Grenadiers, have gotten into position. They've placed their mortar up in this, up in the top of this building. So he's got a pretty good little line of sight. There are two squads getting ready to advance up into the ruins next to the objective. We have our officer here. The Panther is looking around the side, so that'll be pretty interesting on the first turn. There is one squad waiting in between the walls here, and there are the Fallschirmjäger has set up here. This squad is in position to run and get into position and possibly reinforce the Panzer Grenadiers. The Pack 38 actually has a direct line of sight to the Sherman right now as we speak. There is an officer here. Once again, the medium machine gun is in the third story of this building, and we have another FJ squad in the second story of this building. And the Germans also have two units in outflank currently, so that will come into play later in the game. So we're going to go ahead and play turn 1, and we will let you know how it goes. So as always, stay tuned. All right.
How many? 9?
You should have 10 dice. Greg should have 9. All right, so guys, we are back after turn 1, and as you can see, there's already been some dramatic stuff happening here in the center of the table. Pretty much first turn of the game, this Sherman tank decided to just make a foray down the road, and it was immediately taken out by the Pack 38. It had fired all of its machine guns at the Pack 38, and it managed to kill one man. But the Pack passed its orders test and it returned fire, probably taken totally by surprise, completely knocked that Sherman out. Meanwhile, the sniper was completely decimated by this medium howitzer that fired directly at the building, almost brought it down, but did manage to kill the sniper inside. So that was pretty rough. Meanwhile, over here on this side of the map, Kevin began his advance and he chose to move his stuff down the road. But he sprung an ambush from a hidden Panther over here that actually hit the Sherman tank, but did not penetrate. It must have just been a fluke shot, but the Sherman tank was stopped in its tracks, and that halted the half-track behind it as well. So he did unload everybody out of the half-track. The officer, who immediately took fire from this building over here and lost his radio man, and this squad drew fire from the German squad over here in this rubble, and also lost a rifleman. Meanwhile, the mortar zeroed in on the mortar over here. Well, he didn't zero in, but he is zeroing in. And this mortar did the same, so they've got a little bit of an artillery battle going on there. This infantry took fire from the tank during its ambush as well, and also lost a rifleman. The sniper went into ambush, but never did spring it. I'm surprised you didn't spring that ambush, actually. Did you want? I guess we can probably do that before we start the game, since you forgot. So we'll make sure and spring the sniper's ambush. Meanwhile, over here on the right flank, the Fallschirmjäger fired from this building again, managed to kill a rifleman in the woods that advanced up here. Machine gun team also advanced up. We had the medium machine gun in this building. Actually, I'm sorry. So the Fallschirmjäger in here actually fired on this squad over here that had moved up behind the tank, and actually did manage to kill one of them. I don't know who the medium machine gun ever fired at. Did you ever fire that at anybody? Okay, so we'll also need to do that before we begin the next turn. I
didn't choose it.
Oh, you just decided to wait. Did you go into ambush, or you ordered them down?
Sort of.
Oh, okay. So the machine gun in this building was ordered down. And then this squad is moved into this area to sort of kind of wait and see where they're needed. And the other Panzer Grenadier squad is moved across the road to begin engaging these units over here. So it's pretty chaotic first start to the game. We have units in outflank, both the Americans and the Germans. So I'm expecting there's going to be some bloodshed soon. So we're going to go ahead and play turn 2, and we will let you know what happens. So stay tuned. All right, guys, we are back after turn 2, and as you can see, it has been an incredibly eventful turn 2. We already have burning wrecks on the field, more of them. This Sherman actually peeled off the road earlier to try and take a shot at the Panther, which at the time was still tucked behind this building. But he took fire from a opportunistic Panzerfaust from this ruin over here, which managed to get a shot on its side armor, completely taking it out. Meanwhile, that squad, the rest of that squad, fired on this squad over here, adding another pin, causing more casualties. And when that squad tried to activate, they were actually forced to ground. The officer actually took fire from this squad, or I'm sorry, from this squad over here, and he lost his radio man. Meanwhile, this squad took fire from the tank when it finally did pull out and took casualties, and then they were further withered down by this squad in the house that fired at them. So just utter chaos over here. I'm getting a little bit confused, but basically the half-track was immobilized by the Panther's main gun. So that's everything that happened there. The mortar in this house was completely knocked out by the mortar over here, finally ranged in, and it was also helped by the sniper that whittled off the very last man. So very chaotic flank over here, but meanwhile, if you look back here, there are American reinforcements already coming in. Greg brought in a half-track from Able Company, and it disbanded its men over here. One of the squads ran all the way across to this area, and it also unloaded a medic and an officer, which moved up to try and provide a little bit of aid. Really just trying to push up on this objective. Earlier there was a squad in this squad's position. They ran into this building and were immediately assaulted by this Fallschirmjäger, who won the assault and then withdrew back over to this building. So still looking pretty tough, but the Americans are still bringing up a lot of ordnance over here. Meanwhile, the howitzer put a direct shot on this middle building, completely taking it out, killing the machine gunner inside. The squad over here had to advance out, and it tried to take shots at the squad in this house, and was unsuccessful in killing anybody, but the Fallschirmjäger squad in there fired with their dual LMGs, whittled this squad down, took off 2 guys. The medium machine gun team took some pot shots at the pack, didn't manage to hit anybody, and the pack has not been able to get a shot at this howitzer because of this tank husk in the way. So it actually had to relocate. So it's actually moved up a little bit further so that it can start providing some supporting fire over here. Meanwhile, over here, the officer moved over to provide a little bit of support from the Panzer Grenadiers, and the German officer has just moved up here to begin using his assault rifle to lay down fire across the field. So that's pretty much everything that's happened this turn of significance. We've got a lot of units on the table, and there are more coming in this turn from outflank. Both the Americans outflankers and the Germans outflankers will be coming in. So we're going to go ahead and play turn 3, and we'll let you know what happens, so stay tuned. All right, guys, we are back at the end of turn 3, and as you can see, more units have come on the table, and there's more wreckage. This squad over here has taken tons of fire from various squads. It received fire from this team that moved back from around the building there. It received fire from Greg's empty half-track, as well as this half-track over here that's immobilized, but it's just taking shots. So they're taking some pretty heavy pins. Also, the sniper is starting to pour rounds into these squads as well. This squad in the building took fire from, actually I think they took the fire from Greg's empty half-track, but they've been whittled down to 4 men. Actually, at the very beginning of the game, I remember now, this squad took a direct hit from the mortar, which is still ranged in on them. So they actually went down, went to ground. They took 2 more pins, and they lost another man, so they are in a bad way. Meanwhile, over here on the flank, Greg used his outflank move to, actually, this is a member of Able Company, but instead of coming in on the right flank, they actually surprised the Germans and came in on Baker Company's right flank. Sorry, instead of the left flank. So they came in, and now that's another squad that the Germans have to contend with over here. The Germans actually postponed their outflank, so it's looking pretty bad over here on the right flank. We still have the Panther in action, though. He rolled up, he took shots at the howitzer, but he missed. But he did rake this squad with machine gun fire and put more pins on them. They also took fire from this squad, so they are pretty much out of action. But with all these fresh squads coming on, the Germans just can't lay down enough fire to do anything about it. This squad of Greg's moved up from its position here to take the objective. It put fire down on Mark's Fallschirmjäger down here in this ruin and took 1 man out, so they are down to 3 men. Meanwhile, Mark did manage to pull his Fallschirmjäger out of this building, out of harm's way from the howitzer over there, and they're now making their way around the fountain. Meanwhile, Mark's outflank, the Fallschirmjäger outflank, did come in, and they completely wiped the squad of Greg's out that was coming in the open over here. The machine gun team also has advanced up. The Pak 38 took shots at it, but missed. So that's pretty much where we significantly stand right now. Kevin's sniper did shoot, I believe, at this squad, if I haven't covered that already. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and play turn 4, and we will let you know how it goes, so stay tuned. All right, guys, we are back after turn 4. It is just utter chaos over here on this flank. The Americans have come in with their flankers. Kevin brought his men in on this side, and then he also was able to get the machine gun to flank over here. The German outflankers did come on with a Hanomag, but it ended its turn closer to these men than to a friendly, so it had to flee the field. These men, or its contents, did pile out into this building, and they took shots at this squad and disappointingly did not even really manage to kill any of them. I think they picked off 1 man. Also disappointingly, the Panther took a point-blank shot with its main gun at these men and didn't manage to kill any of them either. So this Panther is sitting right here, and it's just not really doing any damage to these squads that are just well within range of it. Fortunately, they don't have any anti-tank grenades, so they can't really assault it effectively. Meanwhile, these squads took tons of pins from multiple sources. The mortar scored another hit, whittling this team down to 1 man. This immobilized half-track and this half-track just opening up with the 50s and just raking all 3 of these squads here. The snipers this squad advancing up, all of that causing pins. Pretty much all these teams did this turn was just rally so that they could maybe potentially be able to return fire this turn, but it's not looking good. Meanwhile, over here, this squad foobarred, so they had to run directly back. The howitzer took a shot at the tank's top armor with an indirect shot, missed. Meanwhile, this squad took raking fire from the Hanomag and this squad that moved up. They lost a man, but he was revived by the medics, so they're still just laying on the objective, pinned really hard, but holding the objective in the middle of the street with the help of their officer, who took shots at the Fallschirmjäger over here. That Fallschirmjäger opened fire on this squad, also managed to peel off a few men. Meanwhile, the Fallschirmjäger from the flank and this Hanomag have just moved up as quickly as they can to try and hopefully contest this objective and hopefully win the game. This squad right here, or the machine gun team, fired at this squad and only managed to put a pin on them, didn't manage to kill anyone. Meanwhile, around here, the men from the building earlier are making their way over to this fight, so they might be able to get there in time. And the pack took a shot at the 30 cal before the Hanomag got up the way, and it didn't manage to get a shot. Anyway, it's looking like a really hard fight. The Germans still hold 2 objectives, and they actually still hold this objective, but it'll be really interesting to see if the Americans can push them out of it. So we're going to go ahead and play turn 5, and we will let you know how it went, so please stay tuned. All right, guys, we are back after turn 5. As you can see, the unit that was holding this objective was finally killed. They were fired on again by the mortar, which missed. What finally took them out in the end was a shot from, I believe it was this squad right here that advanced up and knocked him out. Meanwhile, this lone man pulled up and fired on this squad. This squad also took fire from this squad and this officer and both of these machine guns. And it only managed to whittle them down to 2 men. So as you can see over here from the Germans' point of view, the Americans are just starting to ascend onto the German positions. Kevin's squad here moved up, took shots at this squad, didn't kill anybody. This officer's assistant, his officer was killed by the sniper, so he fired his machine gun into these men. Meanwhile, the Panther tank didn't manage to kill anybody in this squad with its main gun, totally missed again, but it did empty its machine gun into this squad and whittled them down to 2 men. But they passed their orders test, so they stuck around in the game. Meanwhile, the mortar, he missed. He did hit the guy over here, but he rolled a 1, so he didn't kill him. But now he's going to have to find a new target to range in on. The medium machine gun was able to fire over the tank husk at this squad over here, adding another pin. So again, just way more casualties piling up on the German end. Meanwhile, over here in the center, the Fallschirmjäger was able to assault and take out the squad holding the objective. They have since regrouped under here, under this awning. This squad moved out and fired at this officer team. Was only able to put a pin on them. The medic decided to drop what he was doing medical-wise and moved up and basically caused the German half-track to flee the field after ending his turn closer to him. The pack, up until that point, was not able to fire because the half-track was in the way, so it just ended up going down. The machine gun had tried to prevent that assault that took place over here, but it only managed to kill 3 men. The howitzer has also been preoccupying itself with the tank, so it, again, did not hit, but it needs a 3 next time to score a hit. This squad rallied after their foobar, so they will probably be getting back in the fight. And then finally over here on this side, the German officer stepped out into the street and is having a duel with the American officer right now. His submachine gun against the American carbines and rifles. And then we also have the Fallschirmjäger squad from over here. They finally stepped out into the street and they're pushing up on this objective. So the Germans have 1 more turn to try and hold these objectives and keep the Americans from taking the town of Cisterna. And if they can do that, then I don't know. They have to hold 3 more objectives in the American to get a win, but maybe they can at least push them to a draw. So we're going to go ahead and play the final turn, turn 6, and we will let you know how it goes. Greg and Mark have had to bow out. They were killed in action, so Kevin's going to stick around and assume command of the Americans, and I'm going to assume command of the Germans. And we're going to play this final turn, and we will let you know how it goes, so stay tuned. All right, guys, we are back after the end of the game, turn 6. And as you can see, the Panther has been totally pancaked. It was finally ranged in by the medium howitzer and needed a 6 to get penetration on that top armor, which it did, and totally knocked the tank completely out. So after all of that effort, the Panther didn't really do a whole lot of damage at all. We're talking like over 300 points of vehicle, firing point blank at infantry all around it, and really not doing anything. So only to be taken out at the end of the game. But let's take a look at what happened over here. Earlier in the game, we had one of the final American squads back here push up, assault this position, take them out, only to be re-assaulted by the Fallschirmjäger and completely wiped out. So the officer team did move up over here, so he is possibly contesting that objective. I actually didn't measure. I can do that right now and look. 3 inches. So it looks like that objective is actually being contested by one of the Americans. So over here, this squad took fire from these 2 men that moved up. We also had another man move up over here and take shots around the burning tank. This squad was unable to pass its orders test, so it just went down. Machine gun and other gun weren't really able to do much. Actually, the main gun on this vehicle did manage to kill the German officer down here. But if you take a look at this objective, you'll notice that it is being firmly held by the German Fallschirmjäger. They were actually able to push out from these 2 awnings, assault and kill whoever was over here. There was one officer team right here that was killed by this Fallschirmjäger in a duel. And then the squad that had shit its pins out here rolled up trying to get to this objective. They got within 3 inches, but they were gunned down in the street by these men. Medics are unable to hold positions, so they just stayed where they are. They will likely become German prisoners. The pack did try to help out and fire at the men in the street, but missed. The machine gun also fired at these men and also put a pin on them, but didn't kill anyone. This empty transport actually is going to end up fleeing the field because it ended its turn closer to an enemy unit than a friendly. Meanwhile, let's see, what else? I think that's it pretty much, guys. The sniper did fire down this way and put some more fire on the men in this house. So it looks like the Germans hold 3 of the 4 objectives, which means they hold 2 more than the Americans. Which means that this is actually another German victory. Despite all of the toys that the big brass gave to the Americans, it looks like they were again halted by the Germans. I love this battle. It got really chaotic, and I know that I kind of started getting a little bit confused with my descriptions, but it was just so much fun to see how the Americans kind of grinded the Germans down to the wick. And the Germans, you know, they just kind of dug in their heels and they kept fighting. I feel like it really kind of captured the spirit of the Italy conflict and the Anzio conflict. So again, I apologize for calling it Gila in the earlier videos. I'm going to try and change that. This is actually supposed to mimic the Battle of Cisterna. I don't know if there were any tanks used as Cisterna after the Rangers were wiped out the first time. But it's been fun to try and attempt to take this town a couple of times. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I do want to let you know about the Battle of El Guitar that's coming up on November 11th. Should have the video up shortly after that. Yeah, thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook. Join the Texas Bolt Action Facebook group. And as always, have a great day.